Hey you guys, I hope you had a great week. We are so excited to be back together. And this week we're going to be wrapping up our Big Picture series. And we're going to get to hear from Victoria as she's wrapping up our last week on the life of Joseph. But before that, we're going to play a little game. So let's head on over to Neely and see what she has for us tonight.
Hey friends, welcome to Game Time. We are about to have a ton of fun. Get ready. We are going to be running around our houses. We are going to be searching for things. Maybe we're going to be fighting our siblings or our dogs that are in the way. Don't dogfight, but you get it. This is going to be a game pretty similar to one that we play in HSM sometimes, or in MSM sometimes, but what we're going to do is a little bit of a change because you are in your home. So this is called Quarantine Scavenger Hunt. Yeah, get ready. I'm sharing the file right now. It's called Quarantine Scavenger Hunt. You're going to be running around your house trying to solve these riddles and scavenging for different things. So like it says, read the riddle, race to get the clue. Maybe if you have a phone, this would be a time to log on to your Zoom call with the phone. Be the first person to find these things. And let's get going. Without further ado, let's do it. First one, cotton on two ends of a stick. With it, your ears, you have to pick. I feel just compelled to clean my ears with these things. Maybe you don't know what this is. Maybe you do know what cotton is on two ends of a stick, but you're actually not supposed to clean your ears with it. So this is kind of weird, but get going. You have a couple more seconds to find it. Maybe you're the first person in your group. Maybe you're not. Maybe after this whole thing, you keep on scavenging. But here it is. What is this item? It's a Q-tip. All right, Q-tip is point number one. I hope that you, yes, you are the winner of that. Okay, now question number two. Stop loafing around and you can find me. What is a loaf in your house? A loaf? Yes, obviously, this is a thing that's a loaf. Maybe you're at a disadvantage because you're gluten-free, or maybe you're trying to be healthy and take this away. But it's okay. If you can be the first person to find a loaf, you will get the point for your group. Run, 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 run. Obviously, what is this question? Let's say it together. A loaf of bread. Okay, now I know that you're huffing and puffing. Take a deep breath. What is this third riddle? Here it is. I carry your books to school every day, but recently it seems I'm in your room all day. That's sad. This is a sad little riddle. But this is the thing that you probably don't even like carrying around very much, but it misses you more than you miss it because you're not having to go to school every day. So race, maybe it's in your room, maybe it's right there under your desk where you're sitting right now. Let's pull it up. What is this thing for you? What is it? What is it? What is it? A backpack. Obviously, it's a backpack, friends. One of you is probably feeling really good about right now. Others of you feel like you have to race a little bit harder. So get ready, get going. What is this fourth item? I'm number one in math teachers' hearts, but I'm number two if I'm with you. But only if I'm number two, right? Blah, 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 whatever. My favorite kind of this item is a Ticonderoga. Maybe that's more of a hint if you haven't been able to solve it already. But maybe one of you is sprinting. You're not going to find a pen. What is this item? Sprinting, maybe you're in that backpack that we already led you to. What is this thing? It's a pencil. Okay, pencils do kind of grow on trees. What is this next one, though? I think it's something to do with trees. Let's get going. This challenge will take you outside. I'm green and on branches is where I hide. Okay, so maybe right now you're sprinting out to the doors. There's no hiding. This is not hiding for me. It's nice and green right now. It's on the branches. Literally, this grows on trees, and it's not even a fruit. What is it that grows on trees? It's a leaf. So keep on going. We have a couple more items. Do not worry. Do not fret if you're behind. You can do this. Racing, racing, racing. What is this one? Find a picture of the first president printed on 75% cotton and 25% linen. This is a riddle that comes with a little fact. I didn't even know this, but apparently this thing, a commonly printed thing, doesn't even grow on trees. It grows out of cotton and linen. Maybe it's closer to a t-shirt, but it is nice and green. You're going to erase. It's Mr. George Washington. That's our first president. What is it? It is a $1 bill. $1 bill. So maybe one of you is ahead of the crowd right now, ahead of the pack, but that's okay. We have this last question. Maybe it's the great equalizer, worth double points for you as you're searching for it. All right, what is this last item? This is white and rolled. To find it, people will have acted out of control. People acting out of control during COVID time. Yes, you know what this is. One of the guys in my small group actually keeps a few rolls of this in his bedroom just in case things go bad. So you are going to want to find it, racing to your bathrooms maybe if you haven't already figured out what this is. Yes, this last item is toilet paper. Friends, thank you so much for playing. You have done so well. I hope that you are a winner among your group, or you at least had a good time seeing each other's houses as you were sprinting around. Love you, and I hope that you have an amazing time. You are all winners in my book, but one of you is a winner in your own group. So take care, friends. This has been such a good time.
Hey SM, Matt here, and this is my wife Allie, and we're gonna worship together.
Worthy of that you're beautiful, and like our first song said, we're going to put our trust in you and you alone. Sometimes that feels like that's all we have, and that's okay. You are strong, you're beautiful, you love us, and you take care of us. So we will put our trust in you and you alone, and we will not be shaken. Thank you for everything you've done for us, Lord. We love you. Amen.
Amen. Deuces.
Hey guys, Victoria here. Welcome to Grouplife once again. This week we are finishing our big picture series. We've been working through the life of Joseph and learning about it, and so we can see how we can apply his life to our life. And really, in this time of quarantine and COVID, there's so much in Joseph's story that actually we can apply to our life. So we're going to wrap that up and finish talking about his story today. And today, the kind of theme of tonight is pay back. That's right. Say it with me. Payback. Now, don't lie. Almost all of us have probably had a time or two where we've gotten really frustrated, we've been wronged, and we just want to pay someone back. Like, we want them to get theirs. Especially if you have siblings, like, you probably for sure think about payback quite often. For me, for instance, I've told you guys this before, but I have an older sister. She's like 8 years older, so she was like always in charge, always calling the shots, always bullying me around a little bit, telling me what to do. And it got frustrating after a while. And I was always plotting and thinking of how can I, as the little sister, finally like take control and pay her back and show her who's boss. And I remember one day she just pushed me too far, like just too far, was telling me what to do way too much. And so out of nowhere, in the middle of dinner, I walked over to our sink with the sponge. You know those sponges in your house that like sometimes sit at the bottom of the sink and they get all the food stuck in them and like the hair and like super gross, and you kind of like throw them away after a while. I went to that sink, grabbed that sponge, walked over to her and just wrung it out over her head. That's right, like gray, gross food, slimy water just poured down her face because I wanted payback. We all think about payback sometimes, and sometimes we even do it. Sometimes that payback can be public. Like sometimes we see people do Instagram posts of announcing the wrong that someone's done to you, or we see them shaming someone on Instagram or doing a post or things like that. Like sometimes that post is public and loud and we tell people about the payback. Sometimes it's a little bit more private. Sometimes we pay people back behind closed doors. Maybe we start a rumor about them, or we gossip about them, or we convince our friends to not trust them or not like them because what they've done to us. And sometimes that payback, and this happens actually probably more often, sometimes that payback's in our head. Like maybe we're not doing anything, or we're not telling anybody anything, but we're thinking about how we can get our justice and pay that person back in our head all the time. I know for me, I hope some of you also do this because otherwise I'm just weird. But when I'm really mad at someone, whenever I'm in the shower and I'm taking a shower, the entire time I'm having this like conversation with myself. Like I'm doing both sides of the argument and I'm practicing how I want to pay them back and how I want to argue with them in my head as I'm showering because I'm so mad, and in my head I just want to pay them back. So whether it's public or passive or even just private in our heads, a lot of times we think about payback because we think we want justice and we want things to be done right, so we're going to pay it back and we're going to teach them a lesson because that will make us feel better. That's what will do it. And what's important to realize about payback is even though it might feel right sometimes, even though it might feel good, chances are it's actually not helpful or healthy for you at all. And actually forgiveness is what you actually need to do. That's the thing that will actually make you feel better. That's the thing that will actually make you whole again, not payback. And Joseph's story teaches us that so well. We're going to unpack a part of his story tonight, the last part, that I think will kind of help clarify this. But let's just do a little recap on Joseph's story because he had a story. So Joseph,
if you haven't been following along or you forgot, Joseph was one of 12 kids. Like, he had brothers on brothers on brothers. But his dad, Jacob, made it like super clear that Joseph was his favorite. So like awkward family dynamic there. So he has a ton of siblings, tons of brothers. His dad clearly likes him the best because he's like honestly the best kid. So like it makes sense. But his brothers got jealous, right? And they were so jealous and so angry that they tricked him, threw him in a pit to die. And then when he didn't die, they sold him into slavery. So then Joseph's a slave in Egypt. That's already pretty terrible. But thankfully, because he's so charismatic and because he's so smart and so able, he eventually got into this house by this guy named Potiphar. So Potiphar's house. This guy named Potiphar actually employed him as a slave, but treated him pretty well. He kind of actually started to create a career for himself with Potiphar. But then Potiphar's wife hit on him, hit on Joseph, tried to like make a move on Joseph. And Joseph, being the good guy that he is, rejected her. It was like, no, I can't. That's wrong. Like, I work for your husband. That's super sketchy, lady. And so she, Potiphar's wife, got super rejected, super jealous, super upset, and basically lied to Potiphar that Joseph had done things he hadn't done. So now what? Joseph ends up in prison for doing something he didn't do to Potiphar's wife. So now he's in prison. This guy's story is like pretty rough. He's in prison, he's there for years, and then finally he gets released and he actually gets to work under Pharaoh. Pharaoh is like the king of Egypt. He's in charge of all of Egypt. Egypt is super powerful back then. And he starts working under Pharaoh, and because he's so good at his job and because he's so smart and so capable, he actually begins rising in power in Pharaoh's ranks. So after a while, he actually becomes the second in command in Egypt and is working directly under Pharaoh. And one of his jobs working under Pharaoh is that Joseph is in charge of distributing the food to the people in need. So he kind of manages all the storehouses and the foods. It's like as if he managed all the supermarkets and farms in our country. He's managing all the food and how to distribute it to people, which in this time was a pretty big deal because Egypt was going into famine. Years and years of famine, which just means there wasn't going to be enough food. So Egypt was in this time where there wasn't enough food for people, and Joseph's job was to give food to the people in need and decide who and how to give food to people who are hungry. It's a pretty big deal. So that's where the story is. Let's see what happens next in the middle of this interesting time in Egypt. Let's read together. So in scripture, it reads, since Joseph was governor over all of Egypt and in charge of selling grain to all the people, it was to him that his brothers came. Okay, slight pause, important note. Actually, so what happened was in the story we read earlier is that Joseph's brothers, the same brothers who threw him into a pit, tried to kill him, and then sold him into slavery, actually were suffering in the famine and they were starving and they were hungry. And so their father, Jacob, the same Jacob who loved Joseph so much, actually said, hey, go to Pharaoh, go and try to get food for our family so we can live. So their brothers go to Pharaoh and petition the governor, aka Joseph, for food. And they don't even realize they're talking to Joseph. They don't even realize it. They assume that this kid brother of theirs died years ago. So they don't even recognize the brother that they're talking to. But of course, Joseph recognizes them. And remember, these are the same brothers who tried to kill him and ruined his life and made everything horrible for him for years. And for years, he's been thinking about it. And for years, he's been thinking about how he was wronged by them. So let's see what he does. In scripture, it says, Joseph could stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, out, all of you. So he was alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and he wept so loudly that the Egyptians could hear him, and word of it quickly spread throughout Pharaoh's palace. I am Joseph, he said to his brothers. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were speechless. They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there in front of them. Please come closer, he said to them. So they came closer. And he said again, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery in Egypt. But don't be upset and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. You can live in the region of Goshen, where you'll be near me with all your children and your grandchildren, your flocks and your herds and everything you own. I will take care of you there. For there's still 5 years of famine ahead of us. Otherwise, you and your household and all your animals will starve. Wait, what? So these brothers who tried to kill him, who sold him into slavery, who ruined his life so many times, got him sent to prison, all these different things, they come to him hungry and desperate, and he says, "Don't feel bad, I forgive you, let me take care of you." It would be like the equivalent of basically like this. Hello? Oh my gosh. Hi. Hi there. I'm like so sorry to bother you. My name is Lauren. I know you don't know me, but I'm actually going door to door around here in the neighborhood. See, I've come on really hard times because of the quarantine, because of COVID. I didn't get to the store in time. I didn't get any groceries, and then I found out I lost my job and I got evicted from my house. And so me and my kids actually don't really have anything right now to eat or to live. And so I'm just going around to the neighbors and seeing if there's anything they could do for me. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to bother you. I know we don't really know each other. Yeah, Lauren, I know who you are. It's Victoria, your sister? The sister whose boyfriend you stole and then lied to my boss to get me fired so you guys could work there. And then I had to like go back to school to start all over again and work 2 jobs. Yeah, it's me, your sister, Victoria. It's been a while. Wait, Victoria? Oh no. You know what, Lauren, like, let's just not worry about it right now. Like, times are crazy, things are hard right now, people need to be helping each other. Let's just forget about it. Actually, I went and got more groceries today. I was able to get some extra, so you can take these in the meantime. And listen, I have an extra room, I have a spare room. You and the kids can like move in for a while if you need, until you get on your feet, until this all blows over. Like, take these home and I'll set up the room for you for later tonight. Guys, can you imagine something like that happening? Can you imagine forgiving someone so easily? Can you imagine the surprise of Joseph's brothers when they found out who he was, and instead of killing them or making them starve or having payback, he not only said, "Don't worry about it," but also, "I'll take care of you"? Can you imagine that? And why would Joseph do that? Like, why would he do that? Joseph did that because he chose forgiveness over payback. He chose to forgive over payback. And he did that because he understood that sometimes we can't always see God's bigger picture. Sometimes we can't always see the bigger picture. Sometimes it doesn't all make sense all the time. But when you can't see the bigger picture, you have to choose to forgive. Then when you don't have it all figured out, when something doesn't always make sense, instead of choosing payback, you choose forgiveness. And Joseph knew that, and he knew that true freedom meant not paying back or not holding on to a grudge. He knew true freedom with God meant forgiveness. And guys, I think that's what we're being called to in this season. Maybe in this season of quarantine, you've gotten into more fights with people, or your siblings or your parents have been driving you crazy, or maybe because you've had so much extra time on your hands, you keep thinking about and replaying the hurts and the harms that happened. And because you're not around those people, or because you're not at school, all you can do is replay it again and again in your head and get sadder and more angry and more bitter, and you just want payback even more because there's nothing else you can think about. Because the reality is that God has a bigger picture. He has a bigger picture in COVID. He has a bigger picture for us in quarantine. And he has a bigger picture for you and your friendships, even your broken relationships and broken friendships. And that bigger picture involves forgiveness, not payback. Because we know that when we trust in God's bigger picture, it actually makes our lives so much lighter and joy-filled and fuller. And so when we choose to forgive, not only are we following God's plan and blessing those people, but we're really blessing our own lives. So the question might be in this week, who do you need to forgive? Who do you need to forget about getting that payback on? And could that be? And the reality is, it just starts with one step. It just starts with one step of deciding, here is how I'm going to forgive this person. I'm going to choose to forgive. And then you start by trying to forgive. You forgive first. You start saying it. You start thinking it. Even if it's not fully there yet, you try. And then you keep pursuing forgiveness. You keep trying again and again. And every time you get upset, every time you get hurt, that's okay. But you say to yourself, I'm choosing to pursue forgiveness with this person. And eventually, with God's support, it becomes true. But we know that in order to pursue God's plan, We do have to choose forgiveness over payback. And let's put that into practice this week, just like Joseph. Love you guys. Miss you guys. We're so close to seeing each other soon. I can feel it.
Well, what a great reminder that when we can't see the bigger picture, we can choose forgiveness. And I know for me personally, I've actually been challenged to forgive a couple people in my life this week. And so I've challenged myself that every day I'm choosing to take my next step and pray for those people. So what about you? What's your next step gonna be? Well, we're gonna head over to small group, and I wanna encourage and challenge you guys to be open and talk about your next steps in your small group tonight. So we love you and can't wait to be back together next Wednesday.